Okay, so now we have pfSense installed and we have Kali Linux installed. We can now configure the firewall on pfSense. So we'll open the browser on the Kali box, and then we will navigate to https 10.0.3.1. Now that's the adapter on the same LAN that the Kali Linux is on. That's the IP address for the adapter of pfSense, and that's how we will get to it to configure it. So we can select advanced on here. You're getting this warning because it's a self-signed certificate, and then you can accept the risk and continue. So now we're at the login page for pfSense. The default login username is admin, and the password is pfSense, all lowercase. So you can accept that. As we scroll down, this just gives us some information on the password or on the firewall. See the adapter settings that we set up earlier. Now go to System, drop down and select Setup Wizard and select Next. Now we can change the host name if you want. I'm going to keep it at pfSense. You can change the domain. You can call this whatever you want. I'm calling it ecore.local. You want to deselect override DNS. Click Next. You can change the time zone. I'm going with US Eastern. Then click Next. Okay, when we scroll down, we want to uncheck the block private networks. And then select Next. We will not change any values, so click Next. So here we can change the password. So go ahead and do that. And then click Next. We can select Reload. And now we can select Finish. So now we go to Interfaces, and let's choose OPT1. Come down to Description. We can change that. I'm just going to change it to eCore. And then I'll select Save. Then we have to select Apply Changes. Okay, now we'll go to Services and select DNS Resolver. Scroll down to the bottom to DHCP registration and select that, and also select Static DHCP. Now we want to go ahead and scroll back to the top. Select Advanced Settings. Now we will enable prefetch support and prefetch DNS keys. Now scroll down to the bottom, select Save, and then Apply Changes. Now we want to go to System and select Advanced. And then we want to select Networking. Scroll down to Network Interfaces, and we want to select Disable Hardware Checksum, and then select Save. Go ahead and select OK. We will pause as it reboots. Okay, so it's rebooted, so we need to log in. And remember, we need to log in with the saved password that we changed. Now we'll go to status, go to DHCP leases, and we can see the Kali Linux box. Now select the plus on the action keys and on the same line as the Kali box. On the IP address, we will choose 10.0.3.2, and then we'll scroll down and hit save. And then we need to apply the changes. Now we want to pull up a command terminal on our Kali Linux. So now we want to go to the terminal, and we want to run this command that is basically allows that change to take place because we're turning off the adapter and turning it back on. So now we will run ifconfig, and we see that the IP address did change, so we were successful. So now we want to set up some firewall rules. So go ahead and open your browser again. We'll go to the Firewalls tab and select Rules. So we'll set the rules on the LAN initially. And we want to select Add with the arrow pointing up. Now this is important because the way firewall rules work, if the rule is at the top, then it takes precedence over the rules at the bottom. For instance, if you allow a certain port at the top of the rule set, and then you block all ports at the bottom of the rule set, it's still going to allow that initial port that was allowed in the first rule set. So once we select Add, the action that we want to take is block. Coming down to the interface, make sure that it is LAN. The address family will select IPv4 and IPv6. And we'll choose any protocol. As we come down to the source, we want to change this to LAN subnets. And the destination will be WAN subnets. Don't get confused with the WAN address, but we want WAN subnets. For the description, we would just want to type in block access to the service on WAN interface. We'll go ahead and select Save, and then apply the changes. Now what we want to do is create an alias. So we'll go back to Firewall, select aliases. Then we want to select Add. Under the name, we want to call this RFC 1918. Which of course is the private IP addresses. And on the drop down for type, we want to put networks. Now we'll go ahead and add the networks under the networks function. So we want to go 10.0.0.0. Of course, that is a -8. We'll add 172.16.0.0. That's a -12. /12, I'm sorry. Basically, we're going to add all the private IP addresses or non-routable IP addresses. There's also a /16, /8, And the last IP that we want to add is the 192.168.0.0. That is a /24. So once we've made those entries, then we can go ahead and select save. And then we want to apply the changes. Now we want to go back to firewall rules, and we want to select eCore. We want to add a rule at the bottom. Now this rule, the action is going to pass. We want the interface to be eCore. We want IPv4 and IPv6. We want any protocol. If we go down to source, we want to include eCore subnets. In destination, eCore subnets. This does is it will allow traffic to all the devices on the eCore subnet or network. We want to then click save and apply the changes. Now we want to add another rule. This one we want to put at the bottom. It will also be a pass on the eCore, IPv4, any protocol. With the source being eCore subnets and the destination being address or alias. And this will allow traffic to our Kali Linux VM, which is sitting on in the LAN. Sorry, yep. So when you set the destination, in this case, if you use an address or alias, you do have to type in the IP address. So remember, we changed that to 10.0.3.2. Now we can save the changes and we can apply the changes. We want to add another rule that's also going to the bottom. The action is pass. eCore is the interface. Address family is IPv4. Protocol will be any. The source will be eCore subnets. Destination will be address or alias, and this time we're going to give it that alias that we created, the RFC 1918. Now we want to make sure that we select invert match. So basically, instead of saying all private IP addresses, the effect will be all non-private IP addresses, and that is the description, which is allow to any non-private IP address. So what that's going to allow is workstations on the eCore subnet will be able to reach out to the internet. So we click save, and we will apply those changes. Now we want to go ahead and add another rule. This rule we will block. Keep the eCore as the interface, IPv4 or IPv6, any protocol. We want the eCore subnets to be the source. The destination can be any. The description is block access to everything. And then we'll click save. And then we will apply the changes. So remember earlier when I was talking about the order that the rules is important, because basically we did the allows and then we're blocking everything else. So if we would have put this block rule first, it would have just blocked everything before it got to any of the allow statements. Now what we want to do is go to diagnostics, select reboot. We're just going to do a normal reboot and we'll select submit. So this completes firewall configuration. In the next session, we will install our Windows endpoints and a vulnerable virtual machine.